All right, so we now have information on the Revenant seasonal artifact mods, all of the ones that Bungie has showed us for the first act. Obviously, we don't know the second and third act artifact mods yet, so that doesn't really matter. But the purpose of this video is to give you a dim link / weapon loadout that you can use to equip a set of weapons that are going to allow you to play into the seasonal artifact and synergize with the various build crafting options, right? So the video isn't going to be discussing build crafting so much. I'll save that for a different video. It's not going to be discussing dungeon prep. That'll be another video. Look, I'm just going to give you 27 weapons, 9 in each slot, and the idea here is that you're going to have a variety of weapons that are well balanced to combine them in different ways to build into any activity, right? Ideally speaking, to stun champions, to ad clear, to defeat bosses, right? Do crowd control, utility, shoot to loot, stunning champs, blinding enemies, right? It's going to cover every base. Okay, so I've included 9 in each slot, 1 slot open. The reason for that is that you'll still be able to loot on the go and then delete those weapons, and you'll be able to loot from, or collect your rewards from different vendors without having the headache of always having to go back to your vault and get rid of something just so you can collect something new. So this will just be a little bit more on the fly friendly. Okay, so weapon implications from the seasonal artifact. I'll link the Dev Insight article in the description as well. So if you want, you can get further description on the video, I should say. You can get more information on each of these seasonal artifact mods. But some of the implications that we've taken away here are heavy grenade launchers are basically going to be the damage meta. They're getting kinetic tremors. Okay, yeah, it sounds crazy. I like it. So rapid fire frame grenade launchers are getting a buff. That's why I've included Caraxus's Distress here. But yes, as you do sustained damage with heavy grenade launchers, it'll proc kinetic tremors and it'll stun unstoppable champions. So they're serving the dual purpose here of stunning unstops, doing extra ad clear and extra damage, right? So this should be very good on our edge transits, Caraxus's Distress, and I think there are some Dark Ether origin trait weapons, one of which is a arc heavy grenade launcher as well. Don't know anything about it, but we could expect that'll easily be taking up a slot in this loadout, replacing something as soon as we can get our hands on that. But this is something that you can take in day one. You don't have any of the new stuff. This is all your old stuff. This is all stuff that you can use to synergize with the new artifact mods, right? So heavy grenade launchers, we've got regular grenade launchers, right? Special ammo grenade launchers and primary ammo grenade launchers. Of course we got Fighting Lion, but I believe the new Stasis grenade launcher is also going to be a primary ammo weapon. So that's kind of interesting. But grenade launchers are getting weakened clearback, right? Or I think it's called concussive reload now. Same thing. You'll be able to weaken enemies with your grenade launchers, champions, bosses, yellow bars, stuff like that. And at the same time, reload your stowed weapons, right? So this is going to be very, very good. As well as overload grenade launchers. And they're getting quicker reloads as well. So if you're using something like Forbearance or a wave frame, then you'll be able to reload faster. So I've got Undercurrent here instead of Forbearance, just for trial on day one, because this thing has Volt Shot, right? So the faster I reload, the more Volt Shot procs I get. And there's another seasonal artifact mod that is going to give you Ionic Traces when you blind or jolt targets, and then when you pick up those traces, your arc weapons are now going to apply blinding explosions, right? So the seasonal artifact mods are basically giving us benefits from blind and jolt, and giving us access to more blind, like spark of beacons, basically, right? But for any build. So the seasonal artifact really leans into stasis, of course, for most of the build crafting, but stasis weapons as well. Arc weapons pretty heavy leaning towards arc weapons for, like I said, for that extra blind, and also a way to get armor charge through arc weapons, so that's pretty cool. So most of my weapon choices here are revolving around Stasis, Arc, and Void, because we'll be able to get some additional benefits from Void. Right. So other seasonal artifact mods, we've got, like I said, the Dark Ether weapons. We don't have them yet, so they're not going to be included, but as soon as you get your hands on them, you get those god rolls, or if you can craft them, we don't know yet. Those are likely going to be taking up a good number of slots here, because they're going to be overcharged all season long for that extra 25% damage on any build, right? You'll just be able to use them without having to think too much about your build crafting any week. Anytime you decide to pick up the game, you could pretty much count on those Dark Ether weapons being very good. So yeah, so arc weapons, like I said, add clear, arc weapons that do add clear or apply precision hits are going to be able to proc those blinding explosions, right? And then the stasis weapons, as we apply precision hits with stasis weapons, we'll be able to get frost armor. Stasis swords also give damage resistance, which is pretty cool. And then for our standard champion mods, we've got anti-barrier scout, we've got unstoppable pulse rifles, and overload SMGs for our primaries, right? So I've included some of those in these loadouts here. And then for our special champion mods, we've got barrier shotguns, so hopefully that'll be a one shot from the shotgun. And then, like I said, overload GLs, unstoppable heavy grenade launchers, right? So for the weapons that I've got equipped here in the kinetic slot, I have a good balance of special ammo weapons and primary weapons to do basically any job. So Wither Horde is just going to be a no-brainer for pretty much any damage rotation on a boss, dungeon, raid, etc. Get that weaken, get that damage over time, reload your stowed weapons, proc bait and switch, etc. It's always a good weapon, but it'll be especially good. Just like the last time Weaken Clear was in the artifact mod a few seasons ago, Wither Horde was, pretty much the go-to. But now we've got Lost Signal as well, so a stasis weapon, so should be able to synergize with those stasis builds. I've got auto-loading and Vorpal on mine, so I can basically do the same thing that I would do with Wither Horde, but in the legendary variant, right? With a little bit of better synergy with the seasonal artifact. Conditional finality is obviously can stun unstoppable champions intrinsically through freeze and shatter and ignite, but now we can also break barriers with it, so that should be pretty decent. Lingering dread, if you have one with auto-loading and chill clip and disorienting, this is a great crowd control option, and now it'll get extra benefits through faster reload, weakening enemies, and stunning overloads, etc. right? Mountaintop, same deal here. Of course, it's a kinetic weapon, so it's not necessarily synergizing with builds per se, but we've got indomitability, so we can synergize with grenade and melee builds to a certain degree, especially if you got demolitionist on yours like I do, and frenzy. Or if you just have a standard auto-loading recombination, you can definitely take that in as well to work into a damage rotation. Like I said with Wither Horde, get that weaken, get that automatic reload when you come back to it. You'll be able to fire another shot and reproc those benefits. Perfect Paradox, because again, anti-barrier, right? So anytime we can use a special ammo weapon for stunning champions, it's always good. Perfect Paradox with Pugilist and Trench Barrel. This is just a universally good shotgun to use on most builds, because ranged melees do count towards Trench Barrel. Of course, if you're on a 1-2 punch, if you're on a pure melee build, then you'll probably want to go 1-2 punch instead of Trench Barrel, but you can use this on something like Warlock with your Arcane Needle, proc that Radiant, proc that Trench Barrel, and get some melee energy back at the same time, right? I think I've got actually a couple different options on here, but yeah, I'm planning on taking that in on day one. Wicked Implement, it's a scout rifle, right? So it can break barriers, and we already know that Wicked Implement can stun overloads and unstoppables intrinsically through slow and freeze, and so now it can do all three, and it gives you stasis shards. We're going to be getting extra benefits from those stasis shards, I believe, with the seasonal artifact, and of course it's procs headstone, so we can we can double dip into all of the Stasis artifact mods for extra shatter and slowing fields, and it's gonna be absolutely nuts. You can pretty much bet that you're gonna see this in every YouTuber's build videos, right? They're gonna be covering it for sure. Then I've got Blast Furnace here just because it is my favorite champion stunning pulse rifle, right? So for unstops, in this case with Frenzy and Kinetic Tremors, it's just hands down the, in my opinion, the best pulse rifle for doing that. And then I've got Prolonged Engagement here for stunning overloads in case I need a legendary primary weapon to do that. And I think I've got multiple options here. So if I want, I could use Headstone again to synergize with artifact perks like Hail the Storm and all the Stasis stuff, right? Then on to the energy slot here. So Tarnished Metal I am foreseeing as it's probably going to be my most used arc or legendary primary weapon for the utility of stunning for breaking barrier shields. And Shoot to Loot is just always a good utility option to have in any kit, right? So as long as you have a Shoot to Loot weapon on somewhere, you should be good for certain scenarios, like thinking of the Witness if you're doing ad clear, staying at the back and you don't really want to go up and collect loot that's far away where it's dangerous. You can get your armor charge, you can get your ammo from range, so that's very good. You can also roll this with Volt Shot, and I do have a alternate roll with Volt Shot, and like I explained with or I don't know if I did explain it, but we are getting benefits from Jolt and Blind with the seasonal artifact. So when you Jolt and Blind enemies, you'll be able to get free Ionic Traces. Those Ionic Traces will give you armor charge for free, and then your arc weapon will be applying blinding explosions to enemies like Spark of Beacons, but for all arc weapons. So this is going to be incredibly good for arc weapons, even though the artifact mods are heavily leaning into Stasis, especially for build crafting, like for your abilities and whatnot. There's a lot of emphasis on arc weapons. So Tarnished Metal here being a very valuable weapon for being able to pierce all shields and break barriers, right? Just barrier weapons are always good, right? Piercing Phalanx Shield, Scorn Raiders, right? There's a lot of shielded enemies that aren't barrier champions that barrier weapons do a good job at countering, right? So Tarnished Metal is definitely going to be one of my go-tos. It's also a lightweight frame, so for builds where I need more mobility, like on my Hunter, you get that extra 20 mobility for free. It's got great handling. It doesn't feel like a sluggish scout rifle in your hands. It just feels very good. Then I've got Wilderflight here for the utility of blinding enemies for crowd control, but we can also benefit from Weaken Clear. Buried Bloodline, even though sidearms aren't in the seasonal artifact anymore, Buried Bloodline is still going to be a go-to for most builds, so I decided to, or well, not for most, but for a lot of builds that need Devour or access to Weaken, especially if they can't afford to use those mods in the seasonal artifact, then Buried Bloodline is always a good option. Le Monarch, because it's a good option for overloads in general, and just in case I need something in this slot for countering overloads, I've got a ranged option here, because a grenade launcher isn't always a good option, especially at long range for stunning overloads. And a lot of the like primary SMGs aren't that good either. Like I'm gonna need an exotic in here somewhere. So I mean, if you wanted to, you could throw on Recluse or Subjunctive with Volt Shot for countering overloads, but if I'm looking at some more endgame type content, then something like Le Monarch could be a safer option, right? Then I've got Undercurrent here, like I already explained. It's got Volt Shot. I opted for this instead of Forbearance. I might go back to Forbearance, but I just like the idea of being able to get that Jolt and extra synergy with the seasonal artifact mods to create blinding explosions on any build with this weapon. Apply Weaken, reload my other weapons, have insanely fast reload from from the weapon intrinsically. I think I have a reload masterwork on this, so I've already got 82 reload, and plus it's got Vanguard's Vindication, so I can get health back from ad clearing, or I can get health back from stunning champions being a overload weapon, and just applying Jolt. So I mean, Undercurrent, you know, pretty slept on waveframe grenade launcher. I think it should be pretty good this season. Then Dead Grandma, or Dead Grammary. I haven't actually used it, but I've been hanging on to this in my vault. It doesn't roll with 1-2 punch, but it is a lightweight frame, so we get those mobility bonuses and handling bonuses, and it rolls with volt shot, it rolls with chain reaction. So this one here, I've got the synergistic combo of eddy current and volt shot, which if I decide that I like this thing for breaking barriers and just synergizing with the artifact, I may go ahead and do a tier 3 enhancement on it and get those enhanced perks. Right, so pretty good world drop there. And instead of eddy current, you could roll threat detector on it too, I believe. Indebted kindness, so like Buried Bloodline, rocket sidearms are just always good no matter what, but indebted kindness is going to be the rocket sidearm of the season, I would say so far, not knowing the weapons that are coming to us yet, just for the simple fact that it has volt shot, right? So weapons like the Call, there's no strand synergy in the artifact. So unfortunately the Call is not going to be really, you know, not as good of an option as something like Indebted Kindness, where we can, especially with Impulse Amplifier and Volt Shot, you can apply Jolt all the time, get blinding explosions going off, get free armor charge. So that should be pretty good. More Ionic Traces, right? You don't even have to be on an arc build to get all those benefits from the seasonal artifacts, so that's pretty cool. Then I threw on Exderis here because I just think that this is going to be a good way to apply Weaken to enemies. It has great ammo reserves, and those Loyal Moths obviously do crowd control. If you're on an Arc or a Void build, you can play into Void Overshields and extra Jolt through Spark of Shock, and I guess through Echo of Dominance as well, or Facet of Dominance on Prismatic, so I wanted to test out Exderis there, but you know, it's a grenade launcher, so it's gonna be getting a lot of benefits, stunning overloads, weakening enemies, etc. Then I've got Oversoul Edict here, again with Volt Shot. This is going to be for stunning unstoppable champions, doing extra ad clear, rapid fire frames, so it's just very good all around. I've got a 6 perk combo here from farming Master Abyss a couple weeks ago. I think I got this one earlier in the season, but yeah, this is going to be good for synergizing with the build again, being an arc weapon and breaking or stunning unstops. Now on to the heavy section here. Song of Your Ute should see a pretty good glow up this season, just for the simple fact that it is a ad clear / precision hit based arc weapon. So no matter what you do with this thing, it is going to be giving you Ionic Traces. Those traces are going to make you get armor charge, and then you're going to be shooting blinding explosions all over the place. So Song of Your Ute is going to be like a top tier ad clear machine gun, 100%. Then for the same reason, I've got Quillam's Terminus, or for a similar reason here, because when applying rapid stasis precision hits, we can get frost armor for free, right? And so this is like my ad clear option for a stasis machine gun. Being the Harrowed version here, I've got a couple options for perks, but Unrelenting and Headstone is what I crafted on my original Quillams that was not Harrowed. So when I landed this one, I just replaced it basically, because now I've got Adept perks, Adept mag. It's going to heal me, I'm going to get frost armor, and I'm going to be able to play into the stasis synergy with Headstone, so that should be really fun. And then I've also got Dimensional Hypotrochoid here, which is probably my favorite ad clear weapon for stasis in the power slot, again with Unrelenting, so I get a lot of healing back. It's like Forbearance on steroids with chain reaction. Absolutely great. And now you'll be able to proc kinetic tremors and stun unstoppable champions with it. So I mean, that should be absolutely nuts, right? Then I've got the Slammer here for utility. Of course, we have to have an Eager Edge in our sword in our kit somewhere. If we've got 27 weapons, there's no excuse for not having a utility weapon in every category to serve every purpose, right? So here, Eager Edge, Cold Steel, be able to apply slow and freeze and build into stasis synergies, and you'll be able to get extra guard resistance from stasis swords specifically in the seasonal artifact. The same perk that gives you frost armor when you apply rapid precision hits with stasis weapons, you'll also be able to get more damage resistance from your stasis swords while guarding, so that's kind of interesting. Thunderlord, for the same reason of Song of Ute, but this is also going to be, just better for doing boss damage in general, especially for champions and ultras and stuff. Get that, be able to blind them at the same time, so you can stun unstops and just melt them down with Thunderlord. Should be pretty good. And then Legend of Acreus to break barrier shields and just do insane damage all around. That should be fun to test out. Salvation's Grip, this is just going to be, if we didn't have enough Stasis seasonal artifact mods already, well, Salvation's Grip is just going to basically enhance everything. Even this is probably going to be one of the meta weapons for the season, just for the simple fact that every shot is like a Glacial Quake super from the Behemoth Titan, right? So all those crystals are just going to be enhanced by the season artifact. Should be absolutely nuts. And then, like I said, heavy grenade launchers proccing kinetic tremors, right? Salvations, dimensional, Caraxes with surrounded rapid fire frames getting the buffs. This should be the best legendary grenade launcher for melting down bosses if you can proc surrounded. And then likewise, if you can't proc surrounded, then edge transit with bait and switch and envious or cascade point is also going to be an excellent alternative. So that's basically it for the weapon loadouts here. You can look for the dim link in the description, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.